Okay, so if you're a local business, you know that Google's local services ads are pretty much a gold mine for high-intent leads, but you also know they're a brutal, super competitive battlefield. So today we're going to pull back the curtain on how this game is really played and how automation is creating this massive, almost unfair new advantage.
To really get a handle on this, we've got to shift our thinking a little bit. So let's start with a question. What if Google isn't just a search engine? What if it's actively trying to be a matchmaker for your business? I'm telling you, once you start to see it that way, everything changes.
You see, with local services ads, Google is kind of serving two masters. On one hand, you've got you, the business owner, who's paying for leads. And on the other, you have the consumer, who really trusts Google to find them a reliable pro. If either one of you has a bad experience, Google's reputation as a good matchmaker takes a serious hit. The whole system only really works if everyone walks away happy.
Think about it like this. Getting a lead? That's just the introduction. Google isn't just setting you up on a blind date here. It wants to see the whole relationship succeed. It wants to be so confident in the match it made that it ends in a 5-star review, which, let's be honest, is the business equivalent of a successful wedding. And that whole journey, from that first phone call to booking the job, getting the work done, and then finally landing that awesome review, every single step sends a powerful signal back to Google's algorithm. With each step, you're essentially telling it, hey, you did good. Great match. Send me more just like that.
So, if Google wants to be this amazing matchmaker, how do we actually use that to our advantage? This is where we go from the simple analogy to the nitty-gritty mechanics of how you train this algorithm to work for you.
Google's algorithm is looking at a handful of key things to decide who gets that top spot. You've got the obvious ones, right? Great reviews, responding super fast, but look at that last one, lead disposition. That's the one most businesses totally ignore, and frankly, it's the secret weapon. It's how you actively tell Google what you think of its matches.
There's a technical name for this. It's called supervised learning. Every single time you go into your dashboard and you mark a lead as booked or you archive a bad one, you are literally teaching Google's AI. You're giving it direct feedback that helps it refine who it sends to you next. You are supervising its education about your business.
So here's what it all boils down to. Winning this game is not a passive activity. The businesses that absolutely dominate are the ones constantly, quickly, and accurately telling Google which leads were good and which were trash. The faster you close that feedback loop, the faster the algorithm learns to send you only the good stuff.
But let's be real. Who has time to do that manually for every single lead that comes in? It's a massive chore. And that's exactly where automation comes in. We're going to take a look inside a system called LCG 3.0, which is built to do one thing: automate that entire feedback process at superhuman speed.
The way the system works is by integrating 3 key pieces. You need a CRM, in this case go high level, to manage all your customer relationships. You need a reputation tool to help you chase down those 5-star reviews. But the real magic, the secret sauce, is the proprietary AI layer that connects everything and makes it all work together seamlessly and automatically.
And that connection, that's the real challenge. You can have a great CRM and you can have your local services ads dashboard, but getting them to actually talk to each other, specifically sending those lead statuses from your CRM back to Google, is incredibly difficult. It's almost like Google wants to keep them in separate boxes.
And here's the reason why. To automatically update those lead statuses, you need access to a special restricted API that Google only gives to its approved partners. This is the linchpin of the entire system. The real value here isn't just a piece of software. It's privileged access that lets the system close that feedback loop for you, automatically 24/7. Once you have that power, you can deploy a much more sophisticated strategy. It stops being about just getting more leads and starts being about getting better, more profitable ones. You're essentially shifting from playing a volume game to playing a value game. For example, let's take an HVAC contractor. Before automation, their budget gets all diluted by this mix of low-profit repairs and those really high-profit installations. With an automated system, they can just set a simple rule to instantly archive any lead that mentions the word repair. Over time, they're teaching Google to stop sending them those small jobs and to focus their entire budget on finding those big-ticket installation gigs instead.
Now, it's really important to be clear. This is not a magic button.
You can't just tell Google, hey, only send me jobs that are over $10,000. It just doesn't work that way. It's a long-term strategy of indirect influence. You're basically sculpting the algorithm's behavior over time by executing a perfectly consistent feedback strategy, something that really only automation can truly achieve.
This all sounds great in theory, but what does it actually mean for your bank account? Let's talk about the ROI, because at the end of the day, that is what really matters.
First, let's just reframe the cost of one missed opportunity. A call comes in after hours, it goes to voicemail. That's not just a lost $100 lead. If that was a potential $12,000 job, it's a $3,600 net profit loss. One single missed call can literally cost you thousands.
So how does the cost of this kind of automation compare to the alternative, like a human receptionist? Well, an automated system can give you 24/7 coverage for around $750 a month. A fully loaded receptionist costs over $3,000 for just a 40-hour week. The math is pretty stark. You get 4 times the coverage for less than a quarter of the cost.
So what happens when that 24/7 coverage captures just one of those high-value jobs you are missing each month? After you pay for the system, you're looking at an extra $34,000 in annual net profit. Capture 2 a month, and that number jumps to over $77,000. This is the direct financial impact of sealing up the leaks in your sales process.
Of course, this strategy isn't without its trade-offs. You do have to be willing to sacrifice some of that short-term revenue from smaller jobs to train the algorithm for the bigger fish. And you are dependent on the provider maintaining that special API access. But the rewards, higher job values, and a real sustainable competitive advantage can be absolutely massive.
And here's maybe the most compelling part, the break-even point. You don't need to land dozens of extra jobs. Based on the numbers, capturing just one high-value job every 4 or 5 months, a job you would have otherwise completely lost, makes the entire year's investment profitable.
So this all leaves us with one final thought. In a world where a Google algorithm is the primary gatekeeper standing between you and your most profitable customers, is manually managing that relationship even enough anymore? Or is this level of sophisticated, consistent, and strategic automation becoming the new, non-negotiable cost of doing business?